Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Today is about the closest we're going to get to real football, well, at least till the regular season. Day one of joint practices with the 49ers. We'll talk about it, expectations, and a whole lot more. It's coming up on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 10th, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. Of course, as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, we definitely appreciate you. 3 minutes, 33 minutes, whatever the case may be, we definitely appreciate the time that you give us each and every day. We definitely want to shout out my man Ari. He does a great job putting us on YouTube each and every day. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be on YouTube, but he's doing what he got to do, getting us up each and every day. We definitely appreciate it. Believe me, Raider Nation, he takes a lot of pride in what we look like on YouTube. I've been standing up the last few days, got a new little setup in the home studio. I like to call it Studio Q. I get to stand up just like I do my radio show, and Ari's like, wait, hold on, man. Hold on, man. I don't know. I think you're going to have to sit it on down, man. I'm losing you in the frame. I can't get you in the center of the screen. Sometimes you run off the screen. You don't know. You're like, you gotta ground yourself. And, well, if I have an opportunity to not be grounded, just like when I was a kid, I ain't going to be grounded. So I'm sorry, Ari, but he's doing a great job each and every day getting us on YouTube. We definitely appreciate him. You can check him out on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up on Twitter if you want, at your boy Q254. And, of course, if you ever want to get a comment in on the show, you can at 707-654-4693. That's the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line. Your calls and texts will come up today in segment number 3. Didn't have them on Wednesday's show because I had different assistant coaches that were made available to us on Tuesday. Wanted you to hear that. So didn't have any calls and texts on Wednesday's show, but we'll definitely get back to that today. We do have a couple more assistants that I want you to hear that we talked to on Tuesday at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center. You'll hear that coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes, what I saw from Wednesday's practice, what I'm expecting to see, or what I want to see from today's day 1 of joint practices with the 49ers. That's called coming up on today's show. Before we get into any of that, though, I want you to let you know that it's being brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with promo code LOCKEDON to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. I'll tell you a lot more about them later on in the show. But let's go ahead and jump right into the news and notes. And again, just kind of a recap of what I saw from Wednesday's practice at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center. We were inside. They're going to be outside today for the next couple joint practices. Of course, they don't have enough space to have all those guys on the indoor. But on Wednesday, it was one of those, I expected it to be kind of a walkthrough, but it was everything but a walkthrough. It was very fast-paced. It was definitely Jimmy G's probably best practice that he's had so far through 11 practices. I feel like there's no doubt that was his very best practice. And, of course, he had a couple bad ones last Friday, last Saturday. He had been intercepted 7 times, and I know a lot of people were starting to hit the panic button, and I wasn't doing that. I wasn't trying to tell you to hit the panic button, but, it was good to see the defense making some plays. Little concerning with Jimmy G, but you figure, hey, you'd rather him throw those interceptions in training camp, try to work some things out in training camp, obviously get on the same page with his receivers in training camp. And so on Wednesday, he did a much better job of that. As a matter of fact, at one point, he threw a nice little touchdown pass to Davante Adams in the end zone, and Dave Ziegler, the GM, shouted out, "Good shot 10." That was his exact words, "Good shot 10," but he yelled it. And he wasn't standing that far from me. He was underneath the goalpost. I was a little bit further back, a little bit behind the end zone. As soon as Jimmy G rolled out and hit Davante Adams in the back of the end zone, Dave Ziegler, very animated, "Good shot 10." So, of course, I went right to Twitter, right? Jimmy G having a great practice today. He completes a pass to Davante in the end zone, and GM Dave Ziegler shouts, "Good shot 10." That's the tweet I put out there. And so I don't want everyone to think that all of a sudden he's, the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you want to talk about a guy that had a bounce-back day. Jimmy G, no doubt about it, on Wednesday, had a really good bounce-back day as far as practice goes. And really, I'm telling you, like I said, the practice was not a walkthrough style at all. Now, Max Crosby, he came out, he stretched, he went through all the warm-ups, and then he didn't practice. So, obviously, they're kind of holding him back until today and tomorrow for the joint practices. And, of course, he's not going to play on Sunday in the preseason game. But Max wasn't out there on Wednesday. But I'll tell you what, even just the pace that they were going from rep to rep to rep, there was a 7-on-7 session where I promise you the ball was barely snapped, Boom, out of Jimmy's hand. Next thing up, Brian Hoyer. Boom, ball out of his hand, Aiden O'Connell. Boom, out of his hand, Chase Garbage. It was like boom, 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 boom. I made the joke, and I kind of live my life this way. I made the joke saying, if this is a 10-minute session, they're trying to squeeze 13 minutes out of 10 minutes. Right? They're trying to find a way to create 10 minutes and make it 13 minutes. And that's what I always say about myself. I'm always trying to figure out how to turn 24-hour day into a 25-hour day. Like, it's impossible to do, but we're always trying to do it, right? How do you get a little bit extra time? That's what it felt like. That's how quick the pace was that they were working with on Wednesday's practice. And, you know, I say Jimmy G had a great day compared to what I had seen so far in training camp. He had a great day. Again, not saying that he's all of a sudden great and he's going to lead the Raiders to the Super Bowl and he's going to have an outstanding season. I'm not saying any of that. But for one day, I got to give him some praise because he had a hell of a day. He did a really good job. I think there was only about 2 balls that may have hit the ground. One was put on the ground by Trey Tucker where he actually hit the ground and started doing push-ups afterwards because he knew he should have caught that. And then one was just either batted at the line of scrimmage or something. But for the most part, like I said, Jimmy was absolutely on point on Wednesday. He was the big highlight. And the funny thing about that is a lot of people were like, okay, so that means the defense stinks again, which is funny, but no. And that's how it is in training camp. There's always going to be the overreactions. You know, hey, this guy's having a good day. That means that guy must not be having a good day. No, the defense did fine. They didn't do anything bad. They were actually where they needed to be, but Jimmy just was better. Right? I mean, that's the good thing. That's what was encouraging to me. It didn't look like a day where the defense was sloppy. They didn't play good, this, that, and the other. They didn't show up. No, it had nothing to do with that. Jimmy was just better on Wednesday, and I found that to be very encouraging. I feel like, it was a blessing that he was actually there available for day one of training camp as opposed to, you know, coming in a week into training camp or a week and a half into training camp, right? He's already had some time to start getting on the grass and get comfortable. So it looked like, at least on Wednesday, he was a lot more comfortable. Today will be a different day as they have joint practice number 1 with the San Francisco 49ers and their defense that last year was top 5. So speaking of that joint practice, what am I going to be looking for? Well, there's a few things that I've highlighted that I want to look for in today's practice, and I'll look for tomorrow's practice as well. But first and foremost, as I've asked anybody and who's anybody, what are they going to be looking for? For the most part, the trenches, the offensive line and the defensive line. When it comes to the offensive line, I'm looking at the right side. Jermaine Illuminor, Thayer Munford. They are in a battle. I've been talking about it for a while. I think Alex Bars is part of that battle. I think Van Roten, GVR is like we like to call him. I think he's part of the battle as far as the guards position go. But for the tackles, it's Illuminor and Munford. And, of course, that's the big deal, right? The guards. So I know the defensive line for the Niners doesn't have Nick Bosa, but they still have dudes that can get after the quarterback. And it's somebody else. It's a different team. So they're going to try to get back to Jimmy G. Now, obviously, they're not going to hit him. They're not going to sack him. But just like I've seen Max Crosby do many times throughout training camp, would-be sacks. And I point him out every single time it happens. Anytime Jimmy's holding the ball or any quarterback, for more than a couple seconds, I say, oh, that's a sack. That's a sack. And so I'll do that again today. How many of those will I say, hey, that's a sack? Oh, Jermaine just got beat. That's a sack. Oh, Munford just got beat. That's a sack. How many of those will I say? I'm hoping it's a very limited amount. I don't think that they're going to be perfect. I don't think they're going to shut out the 49ers defense from making some plays. But if you can limit that, I think that's a good sign, especially for that offensive line that we know is in the middle of some competition. Speaking of the offensive line, can they open up a couple holes for Zamir White and the rest of the running backs? Britton Brown, Brandon Bolden, Amir Abdullah, Sincere McCormick, right? Those guys, can they get a little bit of wiggle? And I really want to see what Zamir White can do because right now he's running back 1 as long as Josh Jacobs is not there. So that's where the offensive line comes in. The defensive line, Crosby, I know he'll be back at practice. Chandler Jones, he'll be there going up against that 49ers offensive line. And I hear that they have a new right tackle that they're trying to work in. Well, you know who's going to work that offensive lineman in, that right tackle that they're trying to get used to the NFL? Some guy named Max Crosby. You may have heard of him. He's kind of good, right? So I want to see if he has the kind of wrecking effect that he's been having on the Raiders practice, if he has that on the 49ers practice. Secondary, communication. That's what I'm looking for. Communication in the secondary. No busted coverages, right? I don't want to see, what's his name? Now, Brock Purdy. I don't know how I forgot his name. Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold. I don't want to see those guys come up with the big play against the Raiders defense, and all of a sudden the guys in the secondary looking around like, wait, I thought you had – wait, hold on, no. I thought you had that guy. Wait, you were supposed to be over – right? Stuff that we see in games, I don't want to see that, right? I want to see the communication. So if they pass a guy off, if Peters is passing the guy off into the middle, I want that communication to be there with the linebackers, or the linebackers passing it off to Peters or Bennett or Hobbs or Merrick or whatever, whoever's supposed to pick up who, Epps, whatever the case may be. The communication's got to be there. They're not going to make every play. They're not going to bat down every ball. They're not going to intercept every ball. but just look like the communication is there and they understand what they're doing. Be right there to make the play. Similar to what I saw on Wednesday when Jimmy G had a really good day. It wasn't because the Raiders' defense was bad. Jimmy was just better, but they were there to make plays. You saw them being in position to make plays. So if a guy made a catch, they were there for the tackle, right? Of course, they're not taking him to the ground, but you get what I'm saying. Bennett, Hobbs, Peters, Merrick, Epps, communication, execution. That's all I can say about the secondary. And finally, what I'm looking for in today's day one of joint practices with the 49ers, solid to good quarterback play. I just praised Jimmy for what he did on Wednesday. I want to see good, solid play from Jimmy. I want him to look like he's in sync, decisive, on time with his passes. They don't have to be explosive, but they can't be indecisive. And that's when Jimmy gets in trouble. And the days that he had bad days, last Friday, last Saturday, when he threw all those interceptions, you know why? Because he's holding the ball. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding the ball. I'm looking around. I'm starting to panic, right? That's when he's doing that, when he gets happy feet, when he's wondering where to go, when all of a sudden you start seeing his body start moving around, that's when he gets in trouble. But when he hikes the ball, gets the ball, snaps it, boom, boom, and lets it out, then you go. Then it's good. That's a good thing. That's a positive. That's when you know that he's on point. And that's when, and it's funny, I was talking to Matt Barrows from The Athletic on my radio show on Wednesday, and I asked him about Jimmy G, and he said, look, Q, he's a really good quarterback when he's in rhythm, right? And that's the key, when he's in rhythm. If he's in rhythm, he's right up there with the best of them. It's when he gets out of rhythm is when he gets in trouble. So what do I want to see from the quarterback play? I want to see Jimmy in rhythm. Simple as that. Limit the turnovers, right? Continue to have good communication and good chemistry with Hunter Renfrow and Jacoby Myers, right? They've had really good camp so far. Can they keep that up? Devontae's Devontae. He's going to be great. Greatness is great, right? He's going to be great regardless. I could throw him the ball and he'll still be great. Now, I mean, he ain't going to get too far with me throwing the ball, but you know what I mean. It doesn't matter who throws him the ball. He's going to be great. I want to see Hunter Renfrow, Jacoby Myers. I want to see that chemistry continue to grow. Of course, I want to see the chemistry grow with Devontae, but he's going to make sure that happens. He's just that stinking good, and I've seen him already look like he's on a pretty good page with Jimmy G. They're not exactly where they need to be, but they're getting close. So as far as quarterback play goes, I want to see Jimmy be in rhythm. That's the biggest key. In rhythm, Jimmy. When you see that, you know that there's good things going to happen. So that's what I want to see, at least today, joint practice number 1. We'll see how number 2 goes, right? We'll see how today goes. I'll come back and tell you what I want to see tomorrow. And then, of course, what we'll be paying attention to for preseason game number 1. So that's what I got for you as far as what I'll be looking for in joint practice number 1 against the 49ers coming up later on this morning, as a matter of fact, because 7:45, we're going to talk to head coach Josh McDaniels. He's meeting with us at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center. Then around 8:30 is when practice is supposed to start, 8:30 to 10:30. That's when everything will get started. And then, of course, we'll talk to some players following the practice. So that's kind of the lineup of what's happening today at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center. Coming up in segment number 2, some more sounds from Tuesday. Linebacker coach Antonio Pierce, running back coach Kennedy Palomalo. You'll hear from both of those guys, and you'll hear from them after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Underdog Fantasy. And August is here. You know what that means, right? The official start of fantasy football drafting month. I don't even like fantasy football. I don't play fantasy football, but I know that August means fantasy football. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out Best Ball on Underdog Fantasy. All you do is one live snake draft. No waivers, no trades. Underdog sets your best lineup every single week. Try it out with Underdog's Best Ball Mania Tournament. The largest fantasy football contest of all time is back, and it's even bigger with $15 million of total prizes up for grabs, including $3 million going to the winner. That's insane, right? Last year, the winner drafted their team, and they drafted it as early as July, so there's no reason to wait. You can go ahead and make that happen right now. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Sign up with promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code LOCKEDON. It's the easiest place to play fantasy football and the best for Best Ball. Best Ball Mania 4 is the largest fantasy football tournament ever. Again, UnderdogFantasy.com. Find them in the App Store and sign up today with the promo code Locked On. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to take you back to Tuesday when we were at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center, Raiders HQ, and we had a lot of the assistant coaches made available. Scott Turner, passing game coordinator. Edgar Bennett, wide receivers coach. Jerry Slupinski, the tight ends coach. Bo Hardigree, quarterbacks coach. Carmen Brasillo, offensive line coach. Chris Ash, the defensive backs coach. Rob Leonard, defensive line coach. Jason Simmons, defensive backs and passing game coordinator. All those guys, including Antonio Pierce, linebackers coach, and Kennedy Palomalo, running back coach, were all made available to us, and I got to talk to a bunch of them. And one of my favorite conversations or favorite guys to talk to is a guy that comes with a lot of energy. He's a guy that played it at the highest level. He's a guy that's won a Super Bowl with the Giants. That's linebacker coach Antonio Pierce. So here's that conversation with him, talking all things linebackers from Tuesday.
What does Robert bring to that room, though? That leadership, that toughness, that grittiness, or whatever word you want to throw in there. What does he bring?
I mean, keep going. All those attitudes. I mean, that's what it is, man. You know, it's always good to have a guy that has that kind of demeanor about himself, that presence amongst himself. And that kind of just feeds into everybody else. You know, it kind of flows in the room, and then it flows into the defensive unit and hopefully the whole team. But Robert's Robert, and we allow him to be himself. And if that's coming to work and being, a laughable guy and talkative guy, great. If he wants to come work, not say a word and just work, I'm okay with that. At the end of the day, it's about production, getting your job done.
You mentioned last year about Divine Diablo. You were talking about him. You said they just don't build him like that. What are you seeing from him this year?
Hell, he got bigger, though. Until he walked in, I was shocked to see how much weight and mass he put on. But he understands his game is speed, and he's gotten better at playing linebacker, coming downhill. What I've seen the guys get more comfortable playing the linebacker position. He doesn't look like a safety playing linebacker. He now looks like a linebacker. And he'll continue to grow on it. I think each and every year that he's in the league, he'll get better. He'll understand the game. He'll see the game as a linebacker. And I'll just make him better football.
Now, this turnover mindset, obviously, like you said, it's like every team preaches it, everything. But it seems like this is all Spillane. He's like, punch the ball out, get your hands on the ball. That is priority number one, and it seems like that's your priority as well. I mean, you guys basically get each other fired up. You guys, was it like, does he take more of that mindset from you, or is it just like you guys are?
I mean, everything starts from top. Yeah, everything starts from top. Josh preaches it. Obviously, Pat Graham coming here. That's one of the top pillars on our defense. And in our room, that's what we talk about. Production's at the ball, right? It's either tackles, turnovers. I know teams that play in December, late December, January, February for something. When it's the chip online, they probably do a good job of turning the ball over. If we want to be one of those teams, you got to preach that and do it. And the only way you do that is by doing it in practice, individual, units, group meetings. 2-minute drill, no matter what drill it is, you just go out there and you work with that mindset. And if you do it, you're not going to have 1,000 of them. But if you can cause 4 to 5 per unit group or per player, hey, God bless you, you're going to have a good year.
How important is it that they're focusing in on that during practice? These training camps that we see everyone 3-4 guys trying to punch that ball out.
Yeah, it starts with the leaders. Again, it goes from Pat Graham and Josh, and now look, those guys got the helmets on. They're between the white lines. They got to go out there and do it, and they're buying in. And again, every team tries to do that each and every year. Some teams get it in bunches. Some teams don't get it all. And for us, I think just keep emphasizing it, and then we'll know what happens once we get to Sundays.
We had Cynthia Freeland on the radio show the other day, and she said not only is he a hell of a coach, talking about you, but you're a hell of a teacher. What is it about that teaching aspect of it?
Been there, done that. I can put myself in their shoes, literally.
Right.
It doesn't matter that I played 10 or 12 years ago. I played linebacker on TV, done it, watched it. I think I understand what they're thinking most of the time when they do stuff. And if they don't, then we talk about it. We get in the meeting room, hey, what the hell are you doing on this play? Coach, I was thinking, all right, cool, all right. Well, how about we look at it this way? And you try to make them understand that. You work together amongst it. I don't know how it is. I am as a coach. I mean, they'll say what it is. I just want to make them the best football player they can be for the time that we're together.
You feel like it's a little bit easier since you did do it, you played it, you did it at the highest level, and you got one of these things that they're trying to work for?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And I had great guys in front of me that, I played with and coached me up.
Yeah.
They gave me that same example. And that's what I am. I'm a replica of all the people before me.
Do you still feel like what they say, a coach on the field? Do you still feel like that?
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Sometimes I got to shut myself up and just let the guys play, And that's the best part about it. They know it. I'll sit there and they'll hear me mumbling stuff, but I try to say it to myself. But I also want them, while they're on the sideline, mental reps for the younger guys, just to see the game that way. Don't see the game so locked in like a damn horse with blinders on. Open up your vision. Be vocal about it. Learn how to communicate. Learn how to lead. You know what I mean? If we can get enough of those guys, hell, I think the odds will be in our favor.
Luke Masterson played 17 games, started 7 of them last year.
Yeah.
How much have you seen him grow from one year to the next?
Again, another guy's just comfortable playing linebacker. Transition from a kid quarterback, wide receiver, safety in high school, transition in college. And then all of a sudden he's playing in the big leagues and he started some games. But you can see him be more vocal, came in and looked really good physically. I just like the mindset of this kid. I mean, he never takes a day for granted. When you're undrafted, you can't.
Right.
So he just comes to work every day, man. It's impressive to watch.
I'm sure you asked this already, but what does Spillane bring to the mix?
Give me an adjective, and I'll probably say that's it, right? I mean, hard hat, toughness, no nonsense type of mentality. It's just great. I mean, I think when he walks in, his presence, you feel it.
Right.
I feel it. I think our team feels it. Our team needs it. Obviously, he has to keep producing and doing well in a classroom, and then taking that to the field, and then we'll see on game day. But great person to have in our locker room and in our team.
So there you go, right there. You heard it. Starting off with Rob Spillane and ending with Robert Spillane. I was there. Ryan Sakamoto was there. You heard a little bit of Vic Tafer there as well, but a lot of conversation from Antonio Pierce talking about the linebacker room, talking about Luke Masterson, what he's like in year 2, Divine Diablo, how he is now, what he's looking like. A lot of good stuff right there from Antonio Pierce. And again, he's a guy that brings a lot of obviously. He's been there, done that, right? Experience. He's a winner. You know, and he's a heck of a coach. And as Cynthia Freeland from NFL Network told me last week, not only is he a really good coach, Q, but he's a really good teacher, and that's important on this level. So Antonio Pierce is who you heard from right there. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I know I enjoyed talking to him. We don't get to talk to him a lot, but when we do, it's always a good little conversation. And the final one that I want you to hear from is the running back coach, Kennedy Palomalo. He's going to talk all things running backs, and we're going to start off with the conversation just kind of talking about the running back room and what he sees from him.
That's the character in them, every single one, and we pride ourselves in being there for each other, and I like that a lot. We have dialogues all the time about not just football, just about life, and how we can help each other through different things, and I think they've done that.
And Jakob Johnson, you just brought up his name. He's a fullback, and there's not too many fullbacks in today's NFL. How cool is that to still have a fullback on your team as good as Jakob Johnson is and still being a leader in that room?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's awesome. Being a former fullback myself, so it's awesome. But he is such a great young man. The young man's here all the time, taking care of his body, working out, and having our head coach as the offensive coordinator. He loves that downhill run game and play action, and it's fun. And you just go over time. He's used fullbacks more than a lot of guys that have called plays in the NFL, and he's consistent with it. He uses a fullback, and Jakob has been a real benefit for us. And he works at it. He gets better every week, every year. Last year to this year, he's much better. And it's just his energy, his love for the game, his selflessness. That's what you want from your fullback. That tough play. When everybody's hurting and the heat is out there, he's out there going and rooting for guys and bringing them up. He does a really good job with that role.
All right, well, thank you so much, Coach. I appreciate it.
We see running backs in high school transition to college and be great. How does a running back transition from college to the NFL and still be great?
Oh man, some of them are innate. Some of them they're gifted.
Right.
In my experience, the guys that are gifted, they just have a work ethic.
Right.
They work hard. They work sharpen their craft. They know how to take care of their bodies. They know the playbook. They're learning. Their learning is natural. They pick it up so fast. At least the ones that just take it to another level in the NFL. Their learning curve is unbelievable.
Well, you've coached some really good running backs that are special, that have that ability to be there. I know Josh isn't here right now, but what did he do? What kind of message did he leave on that room to also help them as well?
Like we just talked about, the learning.
Yeah.
Just the work ethic, the competitive the unconditional competitiveness of the elite guys that I've had the opportunity to be. It wasn't. They just loved to compete. They were banged up or death in the family, or somebody's ill. They just on game day.
Right.
They were locked in, competing. Now after the game, they took care of what they need to take care of, but it's that unconditional competitiveness that I've seen through my years of coaching. That it's when you have it, you better hold on to it.
How's that relationship with you and those guys? Because I see you like, Papa Bear almost, right? Like you can see the way that you love on them, and help coach them up. And they talk about that.
Yeah, I'm hard on them.
Yeah.
But you got to show them you care, right?
Right.
And it's not just care about their execution on the field. You care about their life. You care how check up on them, and if I had an opportunity to see them in their home and they get to see me in my home, that's the family, that environment that I kind of the Polynesian way of growing up. It's all about family, and I know they're not blood, but it's the closest that I can be without being blood.
Well, I'll tell you, one guy that makes us all smile when we talk to him is Zamir White, right? And he's getting a lot of burn right now. He's getting a lot of attention out there. He just seems like a guy that you want to root for, a guy that's going to give you everything he's got. What have you seen from the second-year guy?
Just what you were talking about. He's a shy kid, young, quiet, but it's the same from all of them. Well, Brandon Bolden's that way. People don't realize that he's going into his 11th year. Amir Abdullah is that way. He's Jakob Johnson's that way. Brenton Brown's that way. And it's just the culture that they put together that you want to root for. You just want to root for those guys. And I'm just speaking in my room, and I love coming to work, and I love coaching.
Well, Sincere McCormick is a guy you mentioned earlier. He tore his ACL last year, but he was a heck of a player at UTSA. What have you seen from him in just a little short amount of time?
He is he's getting his feet under him. Yeah. He's learning the NFL way, but he's got some good innate ability and understands, and now he's got to get to a place that he was the guy.
Right.
Now there's a lot of guys. Mm-hmm. Now he's got to get to where, hey, every play I get in there, I got to compete.
So there's running back coach Kennedy Palomalo right there, one of the guys, many guys that we were able to meet with on Tuesday at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center, Raiders HQ, the assistant coaches. They were made available in the offseason and now made available one more time in kind of a big locker room type setting, but it was in the media room there at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center on Tuesday. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I know I enjoyed having that opportunity to talk to all of those guys, kind of catch up with them and see where they think that the Raiders are so far in training camp. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and text draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. This is the Locked On Raiders podcast. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Went a little long there in segment 1 and 2, so not going to have time for a lot of calls and texts, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first call, Mike from Vallejo, the Valley Joe. Man, it's been a minute since Mike called in and represented. Definitely appreciate him. He's calling to check in after, like I said, being gone for a while, and, he wants to talk about what he believes the Raiders need. Here he is, Mike from Vallejo.
Yo, what up, man? It's Mike from Vallejo. Been a while since I called, but I've always been listening. I've been peeping your ascendancy into the stars, man. Man, in my opinion, you're going to be the voice of the Raiders, like the face of the Raider media pretty soon, man, if you're not already. But really, y'all got to get Josh back in the building, man. I mean, that's my new favorite running back since my guy's gone now. I mean, I've always liked him, but now he's definitely my favorite. And, yeah, man, I just want to see Max get off. I want to see it all happen. And I heard you doing a collab with my boy Ryan. I grew up with him out here. Can't wait for y'all show coming on Friday, man. Stay up. Have a great day, brother.
Mike, thanks for the call, my man. I appreciate you. It's been a minute since you chimed in, but as always, man, definitely appreciate hearing from you. And look, when it comes to Josh Jacobs and the Raiders, I'm hoping it all gets squared away sooner rather than later. I wish it was done yesterday, but again, I do believe it's going to get done. I don't think that he's going to miss any games at all, and I really do feel like he's going to be there at least for, the final week, maybe 2 weeks of training camp. I mean, again, that's just my gut feeling. Nobody's told me that, but I just think that Josh Jacobs, well, one, I know he's no dummy. He's a smart dude, so he knows what's on the line. He knows, what he needs to do to be in shape and be ready for the upcoming season. So I think everything will be fine, and he'll probably be in camp sooner rather than later. But, when I say that, it's, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks max before the season gets started. So thank you so much. And like I said before, man, it's great to hear from you. Up next, got a text from Eyes Gotti the Raider, and it's a short text. He said, I got major questions, like how they'll orchestrate Shelley and Amik and David Long. These guys have talent. You think Divine and Spillane on the field at the same time. So he's talking about the defense there. That's Eyes Gotti the Raider. Thanks so much. And I'll tell you what, I don't know when it comes to the secondary, man. I was talking about, I got the depth chart right here. Go and check it out, man. All these names in the cornerback room. Nate Hobbs is a lock. Marcus Peters is a lock. Jacorian Bennett is a lock. Brandon Faison, who knows, depending on his injury and when he comes back. You got a guy like Tyler Hall, Ike Brown, Lameek Robertson, David Long Jr., Sam Webb, Bryce Cosby, Duke Shelley, Azizi Hearn, fighting for jobs. And realistically, you have Tyler Hall fighting for a job, Brandon Faison fighting for a job. Amik Robertson seems like he's fighting for a job every year, right? He's fighting for a job. David Long Jr., they brought in as a free agent. Sam Webb was an undrafted free agent that made the squad last year. Duke Shelley came in as a free agent. Like, I think Bryce Cosby's gone. Azizi Hearn's probably gone. David Long Jr., Ike Brown, he's probably gone. But there's so many guys fighting for a limited amount of spots. I think they'll hold 6 or 7 cornerbacks. And like I said, Nate, Marcus, Jacorian, all 3 of those guys are locked up. So maybe out of all the other names I mentioned, there's like 3, 4 spots max. It's going to be tough, man. Somebody is going to be a talented dude that's going to be out on the streets, and so we'll see who it is. And as far as Divine and Spillane, I think early downs they'll definitely be on the field at the same time. I just don't see Spillane as a guy that you could put out there all 3 downs just because he's not a guy that's good in coverage, but he can stop the run. So his leadership will be needed, and Divine Diablo, as long as he can figure out, I think he should be good as well. So thank you for that text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Boss Raider in Northern Cali. It's a quick one. He's calling to talk about the Raiders' D-line, but not Max Crosby. Instead, wants to know about Chandler Jones. Here he is, Boss Raider in Northern Cali.
Hello, Q. Boss Raider in Northern California. Just a quick question for you. You keep mentioning Max Crosby, how he is absolutely killing it out there in the training field, but we haven't heard anything about the other end of the bookend, Chandler Jones. Be interesting to hear if you've seen anything good, if it's an improvement on what we had last season, which was quite frankly rubbish. Appreciate everything you've done. Cheers.
Boss Raider, thanks for the call, my man. And I have nothing major. Maybe today against the 49ers, maybe there'll be something to talk about when it comes to Chandler Jones. But, I mean, he looks good. He looks like he's in good playing shape. He's good spirits. But nothing that says, wow, man, this dude is amazing, right? Him and Max are different cats for sure. Max wants to set the tone. Max wants you to know that he's there. Chandler just worked. He's just working, getting in shape, trying to get ready for the season, but in a more calm, controlled style, right? Controlled fashion. I mean, he's communicating with his teammates. You see him out there. You see him out there putting in work. You see him and Max communicating, but Max wants it to be known that he's out there, right? That's why it's easy when he's not practicing to know he's not practicing, because you don't hear him. You don't see, a bunch of disruption. You don't see some near fights. It's just, you don't see that when Max isn't out there. Chandler's a different dude, but maybe with these joint practices, we'll see more from Chandler Jones, and I'll have more to tell you. So thanks so much for that. I do appreciate you. One more text, and then we'll close up shop for today's show. This is a text from Tim in Center Point, Oregon. It's a pretty lengthy one. It says, hey, Q, this is Tim from Central Point, Oregon. I don't understand what the holdup is on Josh Jacobs. I've heard you say and Ian Rappaport say that this holdout will get resolved. JJ will be there in week 1. As I understand, only a 1-year deal can be done at this time. All we as fans can do is be patient and hope for this to happen. I myself feel like both sides need to get this deal done yesterday. Just from a leadership standpoint, I feel that JJ not being in camp is sending the wrong message. Shouldn't JJ and Jimmy G be getting as many reps together as possible? I know Josh Jacobs wants to get paid and what he thinks he's worth, and I respect that 100%. But it's not happening this season, unfortunately, not with the 1-year deal. The longer this holdout lasts, the more harm it could potentially cause, at least to the offense from a leadership standpoint. Maybe not. It's all part of the business of football. I get it. At this point, get the damn thing done. Everyone seems to think JJ will be there week 1, as I said earlier. If that's not the case, get it. If that's the case, get it done. Thanks, Q. Love your show and the opportunity to chime in. Win, lose, or tie. Raiders till I die. That's Tim in Central Point, Oregon. Thanks for the text, my man. I appreciate you. And you summed it up, man. You really did. I believe he'll be there and be available for week 1. Ian Rappaport and many others, anyone I talk to, all believe he'll be there and available for week 1. But until it gets done, it just doesn't get done, right? Josina Anderson reported that the two sides were open to talking again. And I think at the end of the day, it's what Josh Jacobs is comfortable with as far as putting something on top of the franchise tag. If they do that, now I have to sneeze. Of course I do, right? That was a great sneeze. Anyway, I might have another one before it's all said and done. But, yeah, I mean, it's all about what he's comfortable with, right? The Raiders might not be comfortable with putting anything on top. I keep saying that they're going to sprinkle something on top like the Giants did with Saquon Barkley, but they don't have to. They can say, look, this is what the franchise tag is. Either take it or leave it. They could literally do that. I think that it's going to be a little extra, but that's just my gut feeling. That's just what, talking to people that have been around the game a lot longer than I have, that's what they believe is going to happen. So that's what I'm going with. But until it actually happens, who knows, right? I don't think that Josh is in any hurry to get to training camp. The one thing I know is that, guys don't love training camp, right? And he's a guy that's going to keep himself in great shape. He's going to be ready to go, I do believe. I mean, he didn't get a ton of work in training camp last year, and he messed around and led the league in rushing. So I think that they're all pretty confident that he'll be there when they need him to be there and be ready to roll week 1 versus Denver. Oh, by the way, he has a lot of success in Denver, so I'm looking forward to him being out there for that. So, Tim, thanks for that text. And, again, all we could do is just do what we're doing. Just wait and see to when it gets done. So that's all I got time for on today's show. Coming up tomorrow, Mark in Kentucky, a text from 209 Cocaine Raider, also Raider Geyer and Sunland Cali, plus more. We'll have news and notes. Of course, we'll have a report about what transpired in Thursday's practice. Talk to head coach Josh McDaniels, so we'll see what he's got to say. And we got a lot more coming up. We'll have plenty of conversation, what to look forward to in day 2, and also in the preseason game come Sunday. So I'm looking forward to all of that. So we'll be back at it tomorrow, Raider Nation. So until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Shout out to my man Ari. At the end of the day, as always, just win, baby.